Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amber. Today we are talking about our June wrap up and our July TBR. So I'm just gonna go in the order of when I read these books. So starting off in June, the first book I finished was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is the second book in the Part of Your World series. They're all like interconnected standalones. I did not read the first one to this series. So in Yours Truly, you're following Brianna and Jacob. They're both doctors. Brianna has been working at this at this hospital for 10 years now, and the head of, I think it's that wing, or I don't really know the technical term behind it, but he's getting ready to retire and she's the only one that's qualified for the job, and she's been there for 10 years, so she expects to just get the job. But then Jacob transfers over from another hospital. So they really start off on the wrong foot with that. He ends up sending her a letter trying to apologize, and she ends up really liking the letter. So they kind of start going back and forth, and it turns into fake dating. So there's just a whole lot, but I ended up really enjoying this book. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I cannot wait to get to Just for the Summer, which is also part of this interconnected standalone. But anyway, yeah, 4.5 stars for that. Really enjoyed it. I can't wait to get to Just for the Summer because that was my first Abby Jimenez book, and that one, I keep hearing people say that that's their favorite one that she's written. And with how much I liked that one, I can only imagine what I'm gonna feel like about that one. Next, I read At the End There Was You, and this one's by Wendy Heiss. This is the first book in the Blue Fairy Tale series, which they're all little novellas. They're all super short. I think it took me 3 or 3.5 hours to read this book total, but I am kind of slower at reading, so I think for a lot of people it may take 2 hours. Between 2 and 3 hours I think would be the average time it would take people to finish this book. This one is just a little romantic-y. I ended up seeing this book through the author's TikTok, and it was actually the third book in this series. They're all, again, interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read them all, but I wanted to go through and read each individual one. The last one, I believe, was between the love story between the Grim Reaper and the God of Life. They all have really short synopsis. This one, the God of Death, is mad about something with the world and decides that they are going to, in 7 days, release a plague on the world to end it. And so you're following Azriel is a mage who comes to this library where Winter is. She's a priestess. She wasn't her whole life, so this is kind of a newer thing for her. So she lives a very mundane life, but because she hasn't been a priestess, she kind of is secluded from the others. She is very outspoken, kind of just says whatever's on her mind, no filter. I really loved her character. So she ends up becoming the aide to Azriel to help him read through the books in their library so that they can stop the God of Death from wiping the world. He is very grumpy. Everyone's scared of him. She is very outspoken. Not necessarily super sunshine. She definitely has kind of more gloomy thoughts, but she is more bubbly than he is. So you kind of get that grumpy sunshine trope going on. Keep in mind that this isn't going to be really a slow burn because it is a novella, but I feel it was very well done. I really cared about the characters. There were a lot of quotes in here that I really liked. And at the end, I did I read this during a reading vlog, and I talked about how the end kind of had me tearing up. For being a novella, it really had me invested in the characters, caring about what was going on. I loved the book. I couldn't recommend it enough. It's not Kindle Unlimited or anything, but it is only $2.99 on the Kindle store. So if you are looking for a shorter kind of palate cleanser, you want a quick little romantic-y read, I do really recommend this one. I am really looking forward to getting to the next two in this series. Next, I read Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. This is the second one in the Ruinous Love trilogy. This one, you're following Lachlan Kane and Lark Montague. I kind of liked Lark. The longer I think on this, I think I gave this 4 stars. Yeah, I gave this a flat 4 stars, but I don't know. I just didn't find myself really invested in their story. I found it a lot more bland. There just wasn't much going on behind this. I felt the plot that was built up in the first book, the resolution to that just wasn't really a focal point in this, which was kind of disappointing. I felt like this one really focused more on like the romance aspect between them, but it all just kind of felt, I don't know how to word this without like, I don't want it to sound rude because I still enjoyed the story. It just, after reading the first one, I was disappointed in this one. I felt like the plot that was built up from the first one, it just felt rushed in this one. It wasn't really talked about super often, and then it just kind of felt like it randomly got resolved part of the way through this story. I liked Lachlan and Lark's relationship, like how everything went down with them, but I don't know, just overall it just didn't hit the same way the first one did. I was really looking forward to the story. I still recommend reading it. If you thought that the first one was too much, this one's definitely more mild than the first one. There's really not as, there's still plenty of trigger warnings, so do check them, but I felt like the execution of the story was not as graphic and over the top as the first one was. This one definitely, I feel like, focuses more on like the characters versus the plot. I don't really know how the next one's gonna go because there really wasn't much of a plot built up in this one for the next one. I don't know. It was good. The next book that I read was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I don't really read literary fiction very often, so I don't have much to base it off of. I know a lot of people really liked this book. I had a really hard time getting into this book. I don't think I really became interested in it until like between the 50 and 60% mark. I did debate on DNFing it. I just felt like it was really repetitive. I understood like the points behind what was being made, but I just felt like it was very repetitive of the same exact thing getting said, like mainly in the character's own mind over and over and over again. I know that was the focal point, but I felt like the same thing, almost verbatim, was just being said too often, and it kind of kept taking me out because I'd be like, okay, we just talked about this last chapter, like the same exact thing. That being said though, with how slow the beginning was, by like that 50 to 60% mark, I did get really invested and I did end up binging the rest of the book. I think like the last 30% or like 25% in a day. So I mean, the ending was really good. It's just, I don't know, for how long it took me to get into it, it kind of took away from it. So I did end up giving this 4 stars. I think it's good, and it definitely made me want to read more literary fiction so that I have more to compare it to. I had a good time overall. Definitely had a few twists that I didn't really see coming. I felt like it was very well written. 4 stars. Enjoyable time towards the end. Just took me a while to get into it, and that could just be a me thing. Next, I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first book in the Inheritance Games series. This is a YA like mystery. Another one that I thought it was kind of slow at the beginning, but I also understand and didn't really knock it for it. It is the first book in a series, so obviously I know that they have to build up, do like world building, character development, and plot development. After like the 40% mark, but plenty of twists in there that I really wasn't expecting. Like I kept thinking one thing and the polar opposite would happen. So then it kept having me question my own thought process throughout the whole entire thing, which really kept me engaged. I really wanted to see how it was gonna go. I'm interested to see. It has a very, very subtle hint of romance in there, but it is definitely mainly plot focused. I'm interested to see where both of those go, because I know that I think there's like 3 or 4 main books, and then there's like, I don't know if it's a spin-off series or just a little novella in there, but I'm interested to see how it keeps going with all of these. That one got 4 stars. The last book I read, and really I can't say I read the whole thing. I read like half of this because I had started this a while ago. It's been a hot minute since I started this, and I think I was like already pretty much 45% of the way through when I picked this back up. But this is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is a mystery where you're following a wedding that's going on like a secluded Irish island, and you're focusing on the bride, the +1, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. And each one of them has like a motive behind the murder, but only one of them did it. So that whole thing, you're like switching POVs every chapter, and it kind of like time jumps from like the day before, the day of, that night. Like it jumps all over the place. So I don't know. I didn't really like the formatting of it. It just felt a little too chaotic for me. I mean, I know at each chapter, at the beginning of each chapter, it like tells you who you're following, but between the time jumps and which character I'm following, it's too much going on. It's just really chaotic and a bit too much. I felt like a lot of, like I get building up the motivation for each character, but I felt like it was just too drawn out. There was so much stuff in here that was just, it just wasn't necessary to the build up at all. Like there would be things that they were talking about that previously happened where I just really don't, like if you try really hard you could connect it to correlating to the plot, but overall like it didn't have to be in there. So I just felt like there was a lot of random filler. The plot twists were good, but they were so short that I feel like it just overall didn't really make the book. Overall, I was bored. It took me way too long to get through this. I kind of just forced myself to get through it. I gave it 3.5 stars. So I feel like if you really like mystery thrillers, you might enjoy this one. And I know that a lot of people like her writing. Maybe this one just isn't one of the ones to pick up. I have not read a lot of thrillers. Me rating it is kind of, I don't really have anything to compare it to. It did make me want to read more, so location change for the last one. Book with vampires. We'll see. A book with a person on the cover. A book in a new series. And by new series, I mean new to me. A book with a cartoon cover. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, so 2 more. A book with a purple cover. Put those back in there. Okay, last one. A dark romance book. All right, I'm gonna go grab those. Okay, it took me a minute, but I finally found the books. So for the dark romance book, I'm going to be picking There Is No Devil by Sophie Lark. This is the second book in the Sinner's Duet. The first one I wasn't a huge fan of. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't overly like it. It was just okay, but I was told that the second one is better. So I'm gonna continue this. Check this duet off my to-read list. This is the dark romance. Next, for a book with a person on the cover, I'm picking The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I've heard very good things about this. From far away, you may not be able to tell, but there are people on the cover. So this one is about a single mom, and her brother is in the army, and he leaves a letter for his best friend asking him to go back and help take care of her and her twins after he passes away. So it's sad, but brother's best friend. Good trope. So that's that one. A book in a new series to you is The Witch Collector by Carissa Weeks. I have been wanting to read this book for a while. I keep putting it off. I'm just gonna read it. I'm going to read it this month. I've been in the weirdest mood lately, so like I've been in a hardcore mood reading, but like nothing sounds good. Does that even make sense? Saying it out loud doesn't even make sense. Like every time I go to pick up my TBR from last month, I just didn't want to read them. But like, I also, every time I go to pick up a book, nothing sounds good to read. I want to mood read, but still nothing sounds good. I was finally out of my reading slump, and I feel like I'm back in it again. It's a problem. Anyway, it says, every harvest moon, the witch collector rides into our valley and leads one of us to the home of the immortal Frost King to remain forever. Today is that day, collecting day. But he will not come for me. I, Raina Bloodgood, have lived in this village for 24 years, and for all that time he has passed me by. His mistake. Raina Bloodgood has one desire, kill the Frost King and the witch collector who stole her sister. On collecting day, she means to exact murderous revenge, but a more sinister threat sets fire to her world. Rising from the ashes is the collector, Alexis, the man she vowed to slay and the only person who can help save her sister. Thrust into an age-old story of ice, fire, and ancient gods, Raina must abandon vengeance and aid the witch collector or let their empire and her sister fall into enemy hands. But the lines between good and evil blur, and Raina has more to lose than she imagined. What is she to do when the witch collector is no longer the villain who stole her sister, but the hero who's stealing her heart? Been meaning to get to that one. Then we have a book with a cartoon cover, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tess Bailey. Again, I've put this off for like, this is either the second or third summer. I'm gonna just finally read it. I hear good things about it. I'm just gonna read it. This will be my first Tessa Bailey book. And then I have a book with vampires. I'm not really in the mood for vampires, and I don't really have that many vampire books on my TBR. So to help lessen the list of series that I'm in the middle of, I'm going to force myself to finally finish The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the final book in the From Blood and Ash series. I'm probably 50% of the way through. I'm probably more than 50% of the way through this book. I've been listening to it on audiobook here and there. Like, I mean here and there. Very scarcely. I've probably been in the middle of reading this book for like a year straight. Somehow I always remember what was going on. Like when I pick it back up, I don't really know how, but like it's just taken a lot for me to get through this book. I've just completely pretty much lost interest. The first one was okay. I really enjoyed the second one. Third one I really didn't like. This one, I know that this series is super hit or miss. Some people absolutely love it and some people just do not like it at all. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't hate it, but I also just am not overly wanting to pick it up. I kind of feel like each book is just a little bit longer than it really needs to be, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna finally finish this one this month. The last one was supposed to be a book with a purple cover. I really don't have any that I want to read, if we're being completely honest. I couldn't bring myself to pick it, and I was gonna pick The Assassin's Blade because I am trying to go through and do a reread of Throne of Glass, but I don't want to, I don't know. I also haven't really felt drawn to picking that up again. Like I said, I'm in a really weird mood. So I'm scrapping that one, and instead of having all 6 of the prompts pick, it picked 5, and I'm throwing that one out and I'm picking my own. So I'm picking The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. This is the second book in the Prison Healer series. I read the first one the end of last year. Luckily, I kept note of what was going on because I've forgotten a lot of it. I remember the plot twist at the end, which I really liked, but I hear that this one gets better as you go on, and I've been wanting to read this one, so I'm gonna finish this one finally. Not finish it. I'm gonna get to this one finally. Let me know if you've read any of these ones, what you ended up rating them, because some of these, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little scared to get to. Let me know which one you think I should pick up next, because I am in the middle of reading For the Throne by Hannah Winton, which is the second book in the Wilderwood duology, so I think I'm only like 13% of the way through that one. Hopefully I get through that one quickly, but let me know which one you think I should start after that. I plan on this month trying to do like 1 to 2 reading vlogs, getting through this. Maybe this will finally be the first month that I get through my TBR that I set for myself. Probably not. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all my future videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!